Hello, my name is Maciej Baranowski from Tracy International Poland, and we'll have a short interview with Michael Tracy. Today, the author, the entrepreneur, and the author of the book Unlimited Sales Success, and such an inspiration to all of us. Brian, how do you like Poland?
It's Michael.
I'm sorry, Michael. Oh my gosh, I was just checking.
I know.
Michael.
It happens. It happens all the time.
Michael, how do you like Poland?
It's actually it's a compliment. You know, I do. I love Poland. I love Poland. I love the dynamism of the people here. They're very entrepreneurial. They're very hardworking. I love being here. The energy in the room today was fantastic. So
okay, is it your what visit is it in Poland? Is it your fifth visit, eighth visit? Because it's not the first time.
This is my seventh or eighth time in Poland, and my third time in Warsaw.
What inspired your involvement with Brian Tracy Polska, Poland?
Well, I mean, I think both my father and I share a dedication and curiosity to personal and professional development. I think one of those things that, over time, what we realize is that we're both people developers. We get a lot of joy from helping people develop productive skills that ultimately change the trajectory of their lives, whether that's goal setting or time management or sales and marketing skills. But watching kind of a transition, somebody learning something new, taking a new action and getting a new and better result, and just watching that repeatedly has been a huge sense of fulfillment and satisfaction.
I can see. Have you always gotten this business acumen? Was like from birth?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, so when I was growing up, my father encouraged us to sell him on things. So it was never like, hey, I would like this, can I have it? It was always had to be positioned as a benefit to my parents. So whether that was, a skateboard or a basketball or anything, it was, hey, if I wanted a basketball, for example, and I have to pitch it. So it'd be like, hey, so, 10 minutes of shooting hoops is the equivalent of 1 hour of walking. And most of my generation are occupied with video games and eating unhealthy foods. So if I eat unhealthy foods and play video games, I'm going to get fatter and fatter. And so if you compare the cost of a regulation basketball with a new wardrobe to accommodate my fatter body, the basketball seems like a bargain. So can I have $20 to buy a basketball?
Okay, I can see. What was your earliest memory from childhood, actually?
My earliest memory from childhood?
If you can remember.
Oh, so I was born in Canada, in Edmonton, which is kind of in the middle of the middle. And my earliest memory was going to school in a one-piece red snowsuit.
Okay, I can see. Okay, and tell me, have you always known that you want to be the entrepreneur in your life? You want to teach people, coach people how to go for more in life?
I think entrepreneurship is, more of a spirit than an ambition. I think, as an entrepreneur, you see the world and you see kind of deficiencies, and so you want to create products and services that fill those deficiencies and add value. And I think that's just kind of like the natural outcome, is by seeing like a problem and wanting to solve it and then figuring out how to build a business behind it. I mean, that's the definition of entrepreneurship. But I think at a young age, you don't really think in terms of, I want to be an entrepreneur. You just think in terms of, well, what sort of products or services can I sell to make money, and do those products or services add value? And then if you could just extrapolate that out to any business.
Today we are having the training on how to sell books. Tell me, what is your favorite part of the entire training process when you get to know new groups?
Yeah. Well, so I think it's the first of all, if you've written a book, you're in the top 10th of 1% of all people in the world. Very few people write books. It's time consuming. It's hard work. But it also helps position people as an expert. And I think one of the things that you have when I believe everybody's in sales, right? If you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner, you're selling something. You're selling an idea. You're selling a product or service. You're selling to an investor. You're selling an employee on an opportunity to work for you, which is an opportunity cost to work for somebody else. So you're selling constantly. If you have a book, and that book really helps elevate the understanding of other people, it puts you in a different category. It helps you be more convincing, command more respect, and ultimately gives you more authority. So it opens up a lot of pathways for more opportunities.
I can see. So what is your favorite part of the creative process during the writing, the book?
So I think writing is hard work. I think that my favorite part of the creative process is actually writing something that makes sense, right? And that other people can grasp onto and make sense of it too. And that it actually elevates their understanding, changes maybe one of their beliefs, which changes how they think, and that changes how they behave, and ultimately gives them a better and different result. And then if you can change enough beliefs and you can augment their thinking enough, you can really change how they operate in the world and give them a lot more opportunities to create positive results for themselves.
I can see. So what is the very first step, if you were to summarize, for anybody who wants to write a book, the very first step you have to think of?
I would say read books.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't try to write a book unless you've read 100 books minimum. And I think that because you need to, so if you're going to write something new and different and interesting, you need to understand a lot of other things. I mean, and in different types of bodies of knowledge, not just business and entrepreneurship, but science and marketing and biology and all kinds of different things. Because then you can start making interesting connections, and you can offer a unique perspective that actually enables somebody to have, an idea or an insight or even, an epiphany, and really change the way they think.
Okay. How do Polish entrepreneurs actually compare to others you have worked with from other countries? Because you travel a lot.
Yeah, my impression of Polish entrepreneurship and Polish business people in general is that they're self-disciplined, they're hardworking, they're gritty, they're industrious, they are creative thinkers, and they're constructive. They're focusing on themselves, they're focusing on becoming better people, they're family oriented, and I have nothing but positive things to say about the Polish people.
Okay, that's great to hear that. Actually, I'm very proud to hear that. So tell me, what is one principle from your father's legacy that still drives results in Poland?
Authenticity, and being truthful. I think the earliest lesson he taught me was, Michael, always tell the truth and you'll never be in trouble, even if it's painful, because the truth, if you tell it, soon and you tell the whole truth, then you're living authentically and you're being genuine with not only other people but with yourself. I think the biggest mistakes people make, not just in Poland, is when they tell themselves a false narrative, or they don't tell the truth to other people. So they're living on a path that's not sustainable.
I can see. Great. And tell me, what is the biggest challenge nowadays for this in sales? It's tech complexity, or maybe lack of deep client connection. Tech complexity or lack of client connection.
Well, I mean, just sales has evolved pretty radically over the last 50 years. So you can't use a 1980s playbook. Always be closing, because you're not the recipient of buying intent anymore. Google is. And even now that's changing with ChatGPT and all AI platforms. The recipient of buying intent, as it moves around, entrepreneurs, business owners, sales professionals have to use different types of tactics. And my favorite is insight selling, because the buyers are coming into the sales process usually just before they make a purchasing decision, and they've already done a ton of research. They've analyzed a ton of information online. They've compared everything, prices and features, and usually when a sales professional actually gets to speak to them, they are basically just trying to decide between 2 or 3 different options. And so as a sales professional, you have to come in with some really valuable insights. You have to show them that you understand their industry and their business. You have to elevate their understanding, and they have to position yourself as an expert so that they see you differently than they see the other company's representation. And if you can do that successfully, they'll pay higher prices, right? Because they'll want to work with the person that they perceive has the best understanding of their problems.
I can see.
And ultimately, if you have taught them something unique and interesting, they're going to take that back to their organization. They're going to look great, right? And so that you're basically creating positive rapport, great affinity, and it will give them the confidence to recommend your solution, knowing that the conduit to that product or service is going to be somebody who really understands it.
I can see. What was your biggest challenge in your career?
My biggest challenge in my career, I feel like I'm always having a biggest challenge in my career. So I think, originally it was understanding sales, understanding the capacity of rejection, getting rejection and realizing that we create our own barriers, in our heads. So the idea of rejection always seems much bigger than the actual rejection itself. So overcoming that aspect, originally when I was recruiting sales teams, that was highly problematic because I didn't understand how to build a cohesive team. I was good at recruiting people and getting them on board, but really, delving in and trying to understand their motivations because everybody's so different. So that was a big challenge. But that was a great learning experience. I was able to build some really great teams. And then after that, it was kind of getting over my ego because I thought, you know what, I can do it all by myself. Mm-hmm. Which is, something when you're in your 20s, you just think, oh, yeah, I can do it all by myself. I can be a self-made everything. And, I did that. I started a company. I started selling to small businesses. And I realized that I couldn't really fulfill at the level I wanted to fulfill without building a really big, cohesive team around me and scaling with people. And so I decided that, I was very talented in selling. And I went out and found a software startup that needed somebody to do just that. Right, just bring on new clients. They had a customer service, function. They had great engineering team. They had great admin. So I was able to just sit there and sell. And when I was able and empowered to really just focus on my strengths, while they were empowered to focus on their strengths, that's really, when I saw the most catalyzed growth. We went from, 30 customers to 800 customers in 18 months. And the company was sold to a big international bank. So that was my path, which is kind of a funny tangent, is I was going to go into financial services to work at a bank. And my dad told me, he's like, Michael, you should get into sales and you'll get 10 years ahead of anybody else. And I said, well, it doesn't make sense to me right now, but maybe you know something, so I'll try it. And so I got into direct sales. So door-to-door selling was not a pathway that I thought would get me into a high-ranking position at a large bank, but inevitably that's exactly what happened. And, within 7 years of taking jobs as a door-to-door salesperson, I was a VP level of a bank with 160,000 employees. Mm-hmm. Of course, as soon as you get what you want, you realize that you don't want it anymore. And so, that's when I realized I was truly an entrepreneurial spirit, because you have to be a certain type of person to work within the confines and structure of a large organization like a bank.
I can see. Thank you so much. So tell me, what is your long-term vision for Brian Tracy Poland, Brian Tracy Polska?
Oh, I think we've got an expansive vision. I think that there's opportunities to have, Brian Tracy clubs that encompass both personal and professional development and networking and learning in general. I think there's a huge opportunity to connect like-minded people underneath the Brian Tracy brand. Okay. And I think Poland's a wonderful place to do that.
Okay, great. And regarding the future projects, could you spill some, tea regarding the future project in Poland?
Well, I think we're going to continue to have all kinds of interesting training programs. We're going to incorporate some of the thought leadership from Poland, as well as bringing in other people from around the world. And I think there's a wonderful opportunity to learn how to sell, how to market, how to speak, how to be more productive and constructive. There's just so many different opportunities.
Okay. What kind of tips do you have for a young entrepreneur in our country, in Poland, for example? Anybody who wants to start a business. I started my business 2 years ago, and what would you advise to all those, young people struggling at the market?
Go find a customer.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry about your business plan. Okay. Don't worry about your product or service. Don't worry about, doing the paperwork or getting the bank account. Just go out. If you have an idea, put it into a slide deck, or a proposal or an image, and go try to find a customer. Okay. And if you find a customer, you say, would you want to buy this? And if they say yes, then you go and build it. Then you go establish it.
I can see. So, but one of the, I think, biggest challenge for any entrepreneur is the rejection or the fear of being rejected. How do you deal with that?
You got to feel the fear and just do it anyway. And I think in my formative years as a door-to-door salesperson, I think my dad really wanted me to do that specific job, not necessarily to learn sales or team building or any of these other things that I learned. The primary reason was to just get the fear of rejection beaten out of me, so that because ultimately, fear of rejection is rooted in this idea that you care about what other people think about you. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have, or you don't care about what other people think about you, then that is your own unique superpower. And so I would encourage entrepreneurs to realize that no one cares about them. Nobody's thinking about them. And ultimately, if you're engaging and you're out there hustling and trying to make things happen, other people from all different directions will help you, right? They'll see you struggling and they'll help you. I always think about this like example, and you just imagine you're walking through a parking lot, and there's a woman, and she's just standing next to a box by her car, right? Maybe she's like on her phone, right? And there's another woman who's actively struggling to get the box into her trunk, right? So how many people are going to help the woman just standing by the box versus how many people are going to actually run over and try to help the woman struggling to get the box in her trunk? So if you're struggling, people come from out of every direction to help you. But if you're not struggling, you're not actively struggling forward, then you don't get help, right? So you're basically paused kind of in the doldrums of an action. And that leads to despair and depression, whereas the cure to that is just to move forward, even if you are struggling, because people recognize struggling people and they help them. That's kind of the human experience.
Yeah, that's very heartwarming, I must say. Was there any aha moment, any kind of turning point in your life that really made an impact you'd like to talk about?
I think that, I think the biggest thing that most people have to overcome in their 20s especially is their ego. This like feeling of self-importance, that they can do it all by themselves and that they don't need help or guidance, and that they know everything. I think the fastest way to progress is, realizing that you don't know everything. You can always learn more. You're a work in progress every day. Every day you're in a competition with yourself, right? From yesterday, right? You're trying to get better than you were yesterday. That's it. There is no other person. But right now we live in an age of, highlight reels on social media. And so people scroll through these and they see like, these young people with mansions and Ferraris and gold watches and, attractive partners and all these things. And they go, oh, well, this person's doing so well, but it's just a facade. They're not seeing like they're not seeing the fakery. They're not seeing the struggle or the failed relationships or the health issues or any of the sacrifice. If they do have great success, they're not seeing any of the sacrifice that went into it in the first place. And so many people are like, I want to be really successful really fast. And that's a disease. That's a mental disease. Nobody can be really successful really fast.
I can see.
And you see like when young people do get really successful really fast, like they become like social media sensations, and they get everything they want, they get horribly depressed,
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. And it resonates with me very much, to be honest. And talking about the books, tell me, actually, does a process of publishing a book help to facilitate the success, to make it even faster, to go faster?
Yeah, I think writing a book is a great brain exercise, right? Because if you're writing a book, you have to be very clear about what you're writing, and you have to develop on thoughts sequentially, right? You can't start with the most complicated concept and end with the easiest one. You have to think in terms of, well, how can I lead somebody down a path to level up their understanding over the course of the book, right? Where they're feeling empowered and motivated by the things they're learning. And that exercise of writing and then rewriting and then reading and then rewriting is a wonderful clarification exercise. It's almost like sharpening a sword, right? You're just, if you want it perfectly sharp, then you every single time you go over it, you're feeling it. You're cutting something with it. You're making sure that it's perfect. And even then, you still have to settle at some point and just say, here's the final copy.
Totally got you. Wrapping up the interview, tell me what are the key points we can actually learn during the training session at Brian International Poland, Polska?
The key points of today?
Yeah, of the selling books session, yes.
The key points is, selling books is not going to make anyone rich, right? It's not the point of writing a book. Writing a book is about leverage. And so if you want to sell some books, sure. But ultimately what you want the book is for leverage. You want to make yourself an authority. By writing the book, ideally you've become an expert on the topic. And then by having the book, you have basically built a vehicle for credibility. So now you can go and whereas you might have not had opportunities to do certain things like get a meeting or speak at an event or do a podcast, now you have the opportunity to do those things. And as you leverage the book to get those opportunities, you'll sell more and more books. But ultimately, the vast majority of the extra income you'll receive is from these other opportunities.
I can see. So
Right.
it opens the doors to you, basically, for you, yeah?
Yes.
To develop,
Gives you
to fight for more.
options and choices. Yeah.
That's right. Any message for anybody who wants to join Brian International Polska in the future?
I mean, it depends. I mean, do you want to be better than you were yesterday?
Okay.
Right? Do you want to be around a bunch of people who are trying to be better than they were yesterday? Do you think that you might need a little help? And maybe it would benefit you to network with people who have basically already gone the way. So they know the way, so they can show the way.
Great, thank you so much. And the last question. Your favorite quotation you want to share with us?
My favorite quotation.
Like the most inspirational we've heard.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I mean, there's a lot. Whatever you think you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it.
Okay, that's great. Whatever you think, begin it. Boldness has genius power in it.
And magic in it.
And magic in it.
Yeah, whatever
Great.
you think you can do,
Wow.
begin it.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. It was Michael Tracy. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Great training session. I really enjoyed every single moment. Thank you so much for coming to Poland and to giving us so much value.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
That's
Michael.
wonderful.
Maciej Baranowski, thank you so much.